Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is my first time with the Chennai Storytelling Institute. I I have been teaching children and adults for 25 years, and what I use as a tool is storytelling. Um, there's a lot to storytelling, as you all know. We have had studies conducted of thousands of students who were told a story one time, and the following year they remember every detail of the story. They could not remember the content of their exams or their lessons, but they could recall the stories. There was something about the imagery and the storytelling that somehow penetrated their memories and stayed with them for a long time. This experiment has been repeated again and again, and I find that is so, so precious. Um, I am not sure. Is everybody here in I know somebody's in Atlanta, everybody else is in Chennai?
No, different places in India.
Okay, all right, wonderful. So I lived in Himachal Pradesh for 5 years and for some time in the greater Noida area as well. So I'm a little bit familiar with India and still call it my other home. And so I wanted to, I'm fascinated by all the stories from India and also the oldest epics from the Western world. And I find they have so much in common at times. So I have chosen today to start with the story of Manu's Ark, which you might all be quite familiar with. There are so many Mm, retellings of it. This is only one of them that I will be sharing with you in a very short form. So here we go. Many years ago, in an ancient land, which you might be able to guess, um, there lived a holy king. His name was Manu, father of man, father of humans. For in his heart, he cared for everything and everyone in the world. No creature was too small, from the scurrying ants, the squirrels, the monkeys, the elders, the children, the gods and goddesses. Everybody deserved his care and love. This land has been known by many names. The ancient Persians and Arabs called it Al-Hind. Others called it mm, Hindustan. In other places, it was known as Indoi or India, like ancient Greece and ancient Rome. It has also been called the land of Jambu, the rose apple. It has been called Bharat. However, at that time, Manu was simply concerned with the well-being of all, that they would not suffer harm in any way. One day, when Manu offered water to Lord Vishnu, he noticed a tiny fish swimming in the palms of his hands. Manu returned the tiny fish to the water, and was he surprised to hear the fish speak and say, "Would you leave me here to be eaten by the bigger fish? Take me home." Manu felt sorry for the little fish and took him home. He placed it in a bowl. That night, Manu had a dream. He heard the little fish cry out for help. In the morning, was he again surprised to see that the little fish had grown and had filled the bowl, and the little fish cried out for help. "Why have you placed me in this tiny bowl? Take me somewhere else. Will you leave me here to die?" Manu lifted the bowl and carried outside to a well. He tipped the bowl into the well and splashed. Down went the little fish, not so little anymore. Manu turned to leave, but heard the fish say, "Help! Help! Why have you placed me in this tiny well? I need more room to swim." Manu peered into the well, and the fish again had grown, its the well walls pressing against his body, his tail barely able to move. Manu was quite shocked by this magical creature. He reached into the well and lifted the fish and took him to the river. When the little fish had reached the water, with a flick of his tails, vanished into the water. Now Manu breathed a sigh and turned again to leave. He was pleased with himself. He had helped a creature in need. However, that very night, when Manu fell asleep, he had another dream. In his dream, the fish had called out again for help. In the morning, Manu woke up and went to the window. And what did he see? But the most incredible sight. The fish had grown so enormous that the river itself looked like a shallow stream, and the mountains behind seemed but small hills. What could he do to help this fish? The fish mouth open and closed as if gasping for air, its eyes wide, its fins flapping wildly. Its body thrashed around with such force that the very ground shook. What could he do to help this fish? Out of compassion, he had rescued this fish, but the magical creature would not stop growing. With great difficulty, Manu guided the fish to the ocean. He cleared the way of trees, animals. He dug here and there to guide it safely to the ocean. Once they reached the ocean, and the fish had disappeared from sight, Manu again sighed out of relief, and he sat down, happy he had helped the fish finally. At that moment, there was a booming voice, as if from the heavens above. "I need you once more," said the fish. Oh, now Manu sat in despair, his hands holding his head. What else could he do? There's nothing bigger in the planet than the ocean to hold a growing fish. At that moment, Manu looked into the eyes of the fish, now had grown as tall as a mountain. And when he looked in the fish's gigantic eyes, he saw his beloved Lord Vishnu lying down on a serpent bed. Finally, he understood. The fish was none other than Vishnu in the form of a fish. "I am pleased with you," came the voice of Lord Vishnu like thunder. "Because of your goodness, I have come to answer your prayer. In this form, I am known as Mutsya, because you care for every living being in this world. I have come to keep the people and the animals and the plants from harm. Soon there will be a terrible flood. The entire world will be covered by water. You must bring two of each living being, plants, animals, and humans. I will send you a boat. I will also send my great serpent. You must do this." The fish turned away and swam into the distance. Now Manu got to work. He gathered all the people, he gathered all the animals, he gathered the plants, and he brought them all onto the board. Soon after, the waves rolled and lightning flashed. The entire sky became dark. and it seemed as if the world had been swallowed by a stormy night. The waters rose and the boat floated away. The people pleaded with Manu to keep them safe, to lead them to safety. Manu said, "Do not be afraid, I will look after you." However, as he looked into the stormy night sky, he wondered, could Lord Vishnu have forsaken him, forgotten? Just at that moment, it seemed as if a great sun had risen from the ocean far, far away. It was the beautiful and radiant body of Matsya, who had come after all. As Matsya swam toward Manu, he got so close to the boat so that Manu had to look up at this mountain-like fish form. And when he looked into his eyes, there he saw all the planets and the stars. Everything that was could be seen in Matsya's eyes. And even more amazing than that was the tear that fell from one of Matsya's beautiful eyes out of gratitude for Manu's care. The serpent did appear after all at that moment, just as Matsya had promised. They used the serpent to tie the body of Matsya to the boat. Years and years passed as Matsya towed the boat through the stormy days and nights. The waves rolled and crashed, the winds blew, but Manu and his companions were safe aboard the boat. Finally, at last, the seas calmed, the darkness dissolved, the sun rose, fluffy white clouds appeared in the sky, and Manu's boat came to rest on a sandy shore. Manu guided his people to the dry land. There he remembered that day when he found Matsya, a tiny fish swimming in the palms of his hands. He remembered all the years he had spent adrift in a stormy night. He felt such gratitude. He kneeled by the water's edge. He wondered at Lord Vishnu's ways. He scooped a handful of water, and with a heart full of wonder and devotion, he raised them to the heavens and offered it to Lord Vishnu. All right, this was my short story. To begin, I I am very touched by this story for many reasons, and I wonder here with the participants, I liked us to explore the themes in that story that we are still exploring today, that are still relevant to us today in modern world. Um, feel free to unmute and share if there were any images, any emotions, any challenges in the story that you feel are still applicable today. They are still relevant. You can also type in the chat if you don't feel comfortable speaking. It's fine.
I think before we do that, even let me just read from your description of this workshop. This is a workshop in captivating your audience, storytelling from myth to modernity. We're going to explore secrets of storytelling through the lens of ancient myths. We will delve into the Hindu myth of Manu and the Mesopotamian epic of Gilgamesh, uncovering timeless storytelling techniques. And there will be exercises helping us to develop a powerful presence, captivating voice, and genuine authenticity. That's a great description. Okay,
Thank you for the reminder.
hmm, still have the image of the of that small fish. Anyone
Thank
else?
you.
Does an image stay in your mind from the story we just heard? Dina, go ahead.
Yeah, what a wonderful, beautiful story. As soon as I heard, and the fish was taken again, dropped again into it, of kindness, thinking so much. Then finally, when it became big and it looked into the eyes, it saw Lord Shiva. It's a feeling of divine feeling, So that moment, I really felt something so spiritual that from this it went to that. And the way you took the story with your hand gestures and all, I could almost feel the small, then the enormous fish, what it went through, lot of kindness, gratitude, everything come through and relating, also exploring everything today also in today's world. Thank you so much.
Dina, thank you. I mean, you could almost teach a workshop yourself. I mean, there's you have already pointed out most of the themes and the techniques that were already embedded in the story. I mean, you really amazing perception. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Means a lot.
Priyanka, go ahead.
Thanks, Eric. Good morning, good evening, Marleny.
Good
Uh,
evening.
so I have been hearing this story from my childhood, and I always wondered how the themes of the folk tales, they match so much because if we look at Noah's Ark and how that got saved, the humanity got saved. Over here also we see the same theme, and it's marvelous that way. And both are religious stories, not only folktale but they're religious stories. But for me over here, when I look at the modern perspective of this myth, it looks like the fish went bigger and bigger and bigger, and it couldn't be contained anymore, and then perils happened, right? So like that, now when we are speaking about climate control, climate change, the way things are changing so rapidly, and it's said that we are the last generation to have something been done to reverse or to stop or to mitigate the challenges that we are facing because of climate change and pollution and whatever negative changes that has been brought by the humanity. So now, if we look at the problem, like Manu initially thought, oh, it's a small fish and I can put it in a bowl. Then he put it in a well. But still, the problem went bigger and beyond our perception. So every time we open our eyes after a nightmare, we see something went out of our control, and sadly, maybe it is actually going towards the destruction of entire humanity.
Thank you so much for bringing that relevant part of the story as well. Yeah, there's so many layers to a story, right? Um, Anybody else would like to share?
Uh, Thank you so much for sharing such a wonderful story. Though we know you expressed it very well, and you are looking so emotional. What is the reason? I don't know. Excellent. The way you involved, immersed in it, and shared it very well. There was a
You will learn
saying.
the secret. Go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, yes, yes. There was a saying in that. What you call it, every yuga has one dharma. Dharmo rakshati rakshita. So in this Kali Yuga, only it is working on one pillar. Previously, it was on four pillars, come down to three pillars, next two pillars. So after this, the Yuga will be completed. So that's why these all problems will be created by the supreme, and then the problems will be resolved. We'll come into the peace. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing also that layer, that cosmic, timeless layer, to the story, which is um just so relevant, that we keep those, the relative and the ultimate realities when we're telling a story. I find, and you learn the secret here and why this story, even though we have heard it so many times, can become so touching and engaging. And I think that one of the secrets is that what you have said, keeping that ultimate view and the inner view as well of a story and the relative, what's happening externally. And most of all, you have seen when somebody tells a story, you can look into their eyes. You can notice when somebody is seeing the images, is actually there in the story. And this I have found it is one of the most engaging tools. The more I live into the story, the more that story touches my heart, and I'm able to be there and see Manu and see Lord Vishnu and experience this greatness. When Lord Vishnu as Matsya looks into his eyes, and he can, Manu says at some point, it was as if his eyes were encompassing the churning depths below up to the moon above. It was this expansive moment for Manu, which is this kind of realization or moksha or and devotion mixed with great devotion, with great love, great gratitude for this being who has showed up to protect and preserve us. So the more the storyteller lives into that gratitude, lives into all these emotions, into this state of beingness, I think the audience can feel it, and that alone brings us in. We lean forward. We want to hear a little more. It's like I always say it's like the bees around a flower, right? You just don't want to go. There's nectar there, and we all want to take a sip of that nectar. And so that's one of the techniques. And when I came to India, I came to study with great gurus, spiritual gurus. That's one of the reasons I left the United States for a few years. And I remember the first time in India that my main spiritual guru called me. I just answered with a very high-pitched voice. I was a teacher of children for many years, and I had a high-pitched voice because children are so joyful and they can be so loud, and I was intoxicated with this. And so I picked up the phone and I say hello, and my guru, I could feel on the other side cringe, and my guru just hung up on me. Just hung up completely. And after 1 minute my guru called me again and said, okay, let's start again. She said, breathe deeply and drop into your chest and speak from there, she said. So I remember I took a deep breath and I spoke from there and I said, hello. It was so different. And since then, I have practiced that. And I noticed that now when I speak, whether it's at work, in my family, friends, strangers, storytelling, people become interested because now the voice is coming from somewhere else. It's a little more genuine, like Eric was saying, like this is one of the themes of this workshop, how to be authentic, how to be a genuine storyteller, not to have to speak from up here, from our heads, and to invent or fabricate, but to live into it and become quite genuine. And it's a joyful experience for the storyteller. You begin to enjoy it and experience a certain bliss, a certain sweetness from the story itself. So it's like a little, it's a cycle that benefits the storyteller very, very much. And we will do some exercises to get a taste of this. Of course, one workshop is not enough, but one can practice it in daily life. Anything else anybody would like to add? I don't know if Barry or anyone else.
Well, as I was listening to it, and I was just driving home, and so that's why I've flipped onto my laptop. But both the Noah flood story came to mind, but also the story of the fisherman and his wife, and the magic fish. And so that pattern of things getting bigger and bigger, it also relates, and I think others talked about this. Someone mentioned this, that and I know this is Eric lives in this as well. In our political situation in this country, we keep feeling like it's gotten as big as it can get, and then it gets bigger and it gets bigger, it gets worse and it gets worse, or it just gets deeper and deeper. And when will it end? So it's a story about, but I think it's also about the unpredictability of life in general. That just when you think you've settled into something, you've reached the end of this story, the next chapter. Whether it's not always that sequential, predictable, the same dimension, but it's that something's going to happen along the way.
Yes, thank you for bringing that perspective. And I think that the ancients knew this because it is a cycle that begins, like Nageshwara was saying. These are cycles. And so it comes with entering a physical body expression like a planet, the Earth. I always like to say the United States is a very young country. It's an adolescent. It's still a teenager, very much. And so if I were to give right now an adolescent, a teenager, um, a Ferrari or and a gun and $2 million, what would happen? And so the United States has grown exponentially in a couple of 100 years. And so we are now going through the pains of learning, what's happening, how do we express ourselves, and how do we grow from here? Whereas, continents like what we call India today or Bharat is like, we have thousands of years of trying everything and actually have an incredible wisdom embedded in the story of Manu and the Ark. Actually, there is everything. There's a relative layer and there's an ultimate layer there that is hidden within the story. And we can explore that. In fact, that very story can lead anyone to full realization or moksha, liberation, freedom. That little story, tells you the entire path of a human being, from contracting into ourselves and creating all that you see in the world today, or acting out of devotion and authenticity. What is devotion? Love for all beings, all phenomena. And so this is what Manu was expressing, right? Concern and care for everyone, every little insect, every god and goddess, every human being, no exceptions. That alone is liberating. And then the themes of water and the fish and the serpent. Those who are from India are very familiar with the inner workings of the subtle body, the channels, the chakras, and so on. In fact, is guiding, the whole story is guiding you to liberation. And I want to say that any story that speaks to the heart, that speaks to that unspoken question that we all have, that kind of undercurrent of dissatisfaction that we all have, doesn't matter how much we have, doesn't matter how much we experience, it doesn't matter how powerful of a country we are, it expresses itself. There's always a want for more and more and more. And so coming out of not knowing, we forget our true nature, which is absolutely fulfilled and realized. So then the stories become a vehicle for waking up. And any story like that will touch the heart of beings, will plant a seed to that unspoken question that sometimes we don't even know we have, and yet is there. I can share a little story from when my youngest son was 7 years old. And he said, I was cooking and his father picked him up from the school. His father was listening to the radio. There was a war in the Middle East somewhere. This was 10 years ago. And he was 7. And he comes into the kitchen and he says, this was the first time he heard about war. This child, 7 years old, only 7 years in this planet. He had no way of knowing what a war was. And he comes to the kitchen and he tells me, Mom, why are there wars in the world? And as a teacher of children, I have been conditioned and brainwashed to never answer a child's question unless it is with another question, because we know there is much natural wisdom in the children. And all I can give them is a repetition of what I was taught in college or in school. So I came down to my knees and I held them close and I said, that's a good question. I wonder, what do you feel? What do you think? And I went back to the kitchen. He walked around the room in circles, pacing with his little finger like this to his lip. And it took him 2 entire minutes. I was looking at the clock on the wall. And he came back after 2 minutes and he says, Mom, I know why. So now he had my interest. So I came down to my knees again and I held him close and I asked him, why? And he said, Mom, it is because human beings don't know how to calm their hearts. Now, if I had answered that question, I would have given him a history lesson, right? I would have spoken about politics and religion and power struggles and greed and so on. But he went straight to the root of it. And so here is another technique. Listen to children. Ask questions of children. The storyteller has so much to learn, from children. In fact, in some ancient societies, children were asked serious questions, and they would not be spoken to until they answered that question. Sometimes for days, the adults would not talk to them until they answered that question. And what the elders were doing, they were trying to check the authenticity, the purity of their own minds against the child's mind, because that mind had just arrived in the world. The child was new here. So that's another tool, not to punish the children, but with great love to really wonder, how does this child look at the world? Not to use the child as a tool, but to welcome the child's wisdom into this world. Ask them questions with a good heart. And what comes out is just pure nectar sometimes that you can then use to reflect, to look at their stories, to see different layers. Now, if you would like to say something before we move on, I'm ready to listen, of course. All right, we can anytime you feel like saying something, please, you're welcome. I noticed that a big thing with storytelling is our ability to listen. Most of us as human beings, what are we doing when somebody's talking to us? Most of us are either thinking of something else or preparing an answer, reply. It's quite rare when we're fully present because mind likes to move a lot. It's just very difficult to keep it there. And so it's not that we're evil or bad, it's that it is a quality of mind to fluctuate in this way. So listening, there are 3 types of listening that I find very helpful. And this has been studied, of course. And the first one is just active listening. And that one is the easiest one to learn. And that means that I am looking into your eyes. I am establishing eye contact. Every now and then I will nod. Maybe I will say, uh-huh. I noticed that Tibetan people, whenever somebody's speaking, they would say, "hon," or los. Every time somebody's telling a story, every 2 or 3 sentences, they would say los, just to make sure that the speaker knows there is a tension there. And I can hear Indian people going, huh? And so there will be a certain response there from the listeners. So that's just our posture, how we sit. I mean, if I'm just leaning back here while you're speaking and I'm scrolling through the phone, then I'm not really actively listening to you. So that one is the easiest to learn. We can just do it physically. Now, the second one takes a little training, and that's the reflective listening that we're going to do today. This would be a good time to share it in the chat, Eric, please, if you can. I will explain it verbally, but it would be nice to have something to refer to. And in this exercise, very simple, and it can change our lives, not just as storytellers. So, the reflective listening exercise that I'm bringing to you is a 3-minute exercise for each speaker. For example, two people will come together and they will decide who speaks first. The person who speaks first, you can talk about anything. It could be a trip, your vacation, your concerns and plans, a dream you had. You decide what you would like to talk about. You speak for 3 minutes. You set up a timer, and for 3 minutes, you speak to this other person. Now, the listener cannot interrupt, and the listener will just be fully as present as possible, trying to remember as much as possible of what is being said. At the end of 3 minutes, now the listener tries to reflect back like a mirror what he or she heard. And they have to start by saying, I think I heard you say, and then retell that story that this person told them. I think I heard you say. Now, the person who's now listening to their own story, they can here and there correct, but never using the word you. They would use the word I. For example, let's say that I forgot something they said. They could tell me, oh, I also said this. Or, oh, I meant this, in case I am now changing the meaning of things. So, oh, I. So that person will only refer to themselves. They will not say you forgot this or you did this or you you changed my story. They will talk about themselves. This will be also posted on the chat, I hope. And then they switch roles. The one who was speaking before becomes a listener. So for 3 minutes, now this person gets to listen and the first listener gets to talk. This is a very simple exercise. Let me know if there are any questions. What do you think, Ari? How can we do this?
Yes, I posted in the chat the link to Marleny's listing for this workshop. So
Okay.
if you click on that listing, you will go to her listing and you'll see the description of the workshop, and underneath that, it will say Gilgamesh and reflective listening. So Marleny, would you like them to actually open the file about reflective listening?
Only if they need to or they feel these instructions were not enough and that you need to have it there, you know?
I think
Uh,
it's a good idea.
mhm.
At least it's a test of our system. So
That's great, yes.
if you can click on that link, and once you get to her listing, click on the reflective listening PDF file, and then if you see that, if you like, you can download it to your system, or just keep it open, and that will remind you of what is going to happen now. So, Marlene, we're going to invite people to go into breakout rooms.
Yes, please, just by two, not by threes or
Good.
four, but just by
Okay.
twos.
Well,
And I
we
can
have.
be in there as well. You can pair me up with somebody, it's
Oh,
fine.
okay. So I'm the only one. I'll stay in the main room just in case new people come.
Mhm.
We have 12 people in the session, but
Mm.
only 7 of us have our cameras on. If you'd like
Mhm.
to go into a room and practice this reflective listening with somebody, please turn your camera on now. Thank you.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and
If your reception is very poor, then at least you can speak and listen. It's always nice to see, but
yeah,
I understand. Mhm.
okay, great. So Just give me a second. I'll put people I'll set people up for breakout rooms in groups of two.
Thank you. And just remember that the listener, when reflecting back as a mirror, starts by saying, I think I heard you say. I think I heard you say.
And Marleny, we talk
Yes.
about anything, or is there an assigned topic, or do we tell a story, or
Anything is the story of your day, your plans, your dreams that you had last night. It doesn't matter. Your concerns. It doesn't matter the stories that you have been listening to. And the other person tries to hear as much as possible and then reflect as a mirror back to you. And that's it, Very simple. Yet, well, later you'll tell me how you felt.
Marleny, while Eric is figuring this out, I'll just toss in a couple of thoughts I had about things that were said before. One is that talking about that hi, hello, hi, how are you? And then bringing it down to hello, and finding our voice as storytellers. And of course, those of us who work with children, we often have to do that. But I remember years ago, and I don't remember if it was the storyteller Ed Stivender. I don't know if you know of Ed. He's here in the U.S. But I think it was he who talked about two kinds of storytellers: the kind that does all this and puts everything out to you, and the other kind that pulls you in. And that's just said. I think it relates to what you said. And then the other
Yes.
thing, and Eric, break in at any time if you're ready for us. But
Uh,
the other,
yeah, Marleny, we have an odd number of people. So can one of the rooms have three people?
Or would you be able to jump in or
Oh, okay. I'll
look,
one of the
Er-
persons in the main room with me, and we'll try to do it here. Okay,
wonderful.
I'm sorry, I interrupted somebody.
I was going to
Very,
say
yes.
it looks like 8 people plus you, doesn't it?
You might not be able to see everyone, Barry. I think Eric
Yes,
has
that's right.
he
Nine
can see, yeah.
people. That's an odd number.
Yeah,
No,
okay.
but if you stay in the room alone, that leaves 8 to go into the breakout rooms.
Mm,
If you stay in the main room.
I see. Maybe well, I don't know. I'm not sure. It's
But
not.
Or
here's going
Eric
to be
can
the
go
now.
and I'll stay here. Eric can go
No,
and
no,
I'll
no,
stay
no.
here.
I'm going to stay here. And now, okay, I'm going to send some people, or you're going to get an invitation to go into a breakout room, and
Right.
go ahead and as mentioned, if you like, open that PDF file, and
Just
that
Yeah.
will
open the door.
remind you of what to do.
Right.
Once you're in a breakout room, I'm not sure if you can access chat and do that. So if you'd like to have that PDF file, you probably want to get it now.
Yes, just
Marleny,
remember, I think I heard you say, and then we have to time it. Eric, it would be like maybe 12 minutes. Mm-hmm.
The
Will you tell
people,
us when the first 3 minutes are up and then the next 3 minutes?
Oh, can you do that, Eric, from there? Send a little notice or
every
reminder?
3 minutes, yeah, every 3 minutes, I'll let people know.
How wonderful Zoom is.
Okay, okay, I'm going to open the rooms now.
Great, thank you.
Priyanka, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi.
Very good. Okay, I'm supposed to let people know every 3 minutes. So it's 9:50 now. So I have to let them know at 9:53, 9:56, 9:59, and 10:02. Okay, you still there, Priyanka?
Yeah, it's okay. I can let it go.
Well, you can keep
Not
your camera
continue.
off. Keep your camera turned off. That's fine. Um, but let me see what this is all about. Let's just take a look at this instruction page. I'm going to do screen share. Can you see the email?
Yes.
It's pretty small.
Mhm.
Okay, reflective listening exercise.
Eric, for this part, can we stop the recording because we are in the main room?
That's a very good idea. Let me figure out how to do that. When I'm going to stop share and I'm pausing. So Marleny, please carry on. Up, you're on mute.
Did we lose anybody or is everybody back?
We're in good shape.
Great. All right. I look forward to some insight. What was the most difficult part of this and what was the easiest part for you?
I will say the difficult part was having to interrupt my partner because we had a protocol to follow. And she was sharing, wonderful things and heartfelt things. And I had to say, no, stop, and I had to make that decision of, and she went on a little past, that 3 minute marker that Eric put there. And I was like, oh, when's it? But it's hard when we get to start talking to parcel it out like that.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I mean, ideally, we could do it for a long time, but being the first time, 3 minutes, and it's so rare that we have a listener, a willing listener there. How wonderful is that? How often do we have that? So thank you for being a great listener. I think Mona wants to talk.
Yes, hi. It was such a beautiful session. And I felt that listening was a kind of meditation because when you're not thinking and your mind is not getting, transported to another place, it is just with that person, his or her feelings, the emotions. You get transported to his like I was with Veena. So I felt like I was in her world and I was trying to see how she's juggling between different tasks and what is going inside her. So that felt a kind of relaxation. There was a calm inside me when there's nothing to do but just to listen. It was a beautiful session. Thank you so much.
So glad.
Marlene, may I?
Veena, yes, please, welcome.
Yeah, I was with Mona, and I think I heard you say that was wonderful. And Eric's timely, those minutes reminding us helped us a lot, but we didn't think about it. When we were talking, both of us felt so relaxed. And the things that she told me also could resonate with us as storytellers. So we felt very good about it. It relaxed us a lot. And at the same time, what she said resonated with the work we are doing right now and how we are helping not only the children, but the parents as well, and how to make everybody calm and relaxed. And at the same time, passing from generation to generation stories and remembering our ancestors at the same time, the connect and the bond. And now going ahead and spreading it now to our generation today for a better world and bringing all these stories alive. So that felt very relaxed. Thank you so much for the activity. I had a great time with Mona.
Thank you so much for, being willing to do this.
Aparna?
Thank you, Marlene. Lovely activity. I love listening, and it's hard to listen, so it's all a learning journey for me. So yeah, I think one thing that stood out for me as I listened, my partner's Kavita. She's not visible now, but we shared. stories which were personal stories. So I think the thing that came out for me through the listening exercise is just when you're actually listening, our ability to associate with our own life uh, aspects from what we're listening to is so much higher and so much richer. So there was a story that she talked about where when she lost her phone, and unfortunate, but it helped me remember my own unfortunate incident of losing my phone, and the lessons that we learned, and it just goes on to say that when you really listen, you're able to make associations, and the human to human connection is so much richer and better. So I really enjoyed that. And thank you for yet again reminding us of the importance of listening. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing. If anybody else would like to share.
Rachel.
I too really enjoyed the exercise, and I felt like I got to know my partner better. And the upshot for me, one of the things that is very important for me is to feel, not only to have that human connection, but to feel like I have friends. And this sharing made me feel like I'm getting to know this person better and that there's a friendship.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for sharing this, and we can see this is a timeless theme, right? This warmth, this friendship, this feeling welcome in the world, in this planet. And I thought that that story of Manu, that's why it's so close to my heart, because it is this very welcoming presence, like a father to humankind, caring for each being, no matter what, equally. And so a lot of warmth, a lot of a strength in that, as you said, this friendship, finding a friend. Um, so, I mean, this is wonderful. I really enjoy listening to your insights actually, because it's so different whenever we do this. I have been doing this for years myself, and it is always part of my public speaking courses. It doesn't matter where I am teaching. I have been hired to teach, to train, let's say, the staff of the Ministry of Finance in Nepal. And this is the first exercise that I would open up with. It's like and they were so incredible. So I have done this with children. I have done this in IT companies. I have done this in nunneries and monasteries. So, and everywhere, it seemed that we're never taught this. We're not taught this in any school. So that there was such opening and gratitude to be able to just listen, like you said, just listen, or have a friend listen to us. And going back to the story, this is a theme, right? Manu is listening to the entire world's needs, and of course, Lord Vishnu is listening as well. And in this listening and prayer from Manu, things happened. Something happened. Humankind was again protected and preserved and taken to the next level. And so I'm looking at the layers in the story and sort of sharing with you my processing of this story. And I mean, I had planned so many activities, but time goes, right, so quickly. So I like to work cooperatively in my workshops. So I would like to give you options here and you can decide. We can decide together. We have certain activities that we can do. We could look at that Gilgamesh story or not. You can read it later and sort of look at the themes. Now, Gilgamesh is thought to be the most ancient epic in the Western world, and it's not very different from Eastern mysteries if we look at it. And so here is the struggle of humankind becoming so powerful. And Gilgamesh was a great king, and he lived in Uruk, the town of Uruk. Now, the town of Uruk was enclosed by walls, and there was an endless river around it that had no beginning or end. Nobody knew what was happening in the river because it was that if we touched the water, we would die. And so, but Gilgamesh liked to conquer and tame wild beasts and build higher and higher walls around the city so that the people were always so busy until the elders one day were so tired of it that they went to the gods and they asked them, is there a way that we can stop Gilgamesh from building walls? Our girls have no lovers. They are always building walls. There is no happiness. Our musicians are always working, building walls. The wives are alone at home. Mothers are left without sons, and so on. And we want you to do something. And the gods say, what can we do? Hurl stones down at Gilgamesh? And they say, no, we want you to build a wild man, even stronger than Gilgamesh, who will come and destroy him. And so you can explore the story by yourselves and see what sort of parallels there are to our modern lives, because there is a lot of food in that, in ancient epics and stories that are still engaging, especially when they speak about this universal question and love and warmth. Or we could do something and a little exercise in creating something together here. What do you feel? Would you like to just do a little exercise here all together and later explore Gilgamesh on your own?
I think it's
Or
a good idea to do an exercise here. We have 10 minutes.
right, that's it, right? So we don't have a lot. So time decides, right? Mahakala. Lord of Time. So all right. So here I have we can choose a key like emotion from the story of Manu. You can think back at the story. You can close your eyes if you want to, if it helps, and choose this key emotional moments. Then we would try and express them physically. And we can all choose one. We might choose the same as others and try and live into that emotion and express it physically. So that is one exercise that we can very quickly do in like 3 minutes, and then we can do something else after that. So you can just think back at the story, these moments, these emotions that Manu might have felt, or the people, or Lord Vishnu.
May I?
Yes, please.
Well, it was the time when the river was in full fury and Matsya Avatara, Vishnu had not appeared. And they were all panicking that they will get drowned, they will get drowned, they will be swept away by the bigger waves. So that state of that emotion is something that is anxiety, panic, and all that. So that is what I felt about the story.
Thank you, Lipika. Do you want to do it on camera or does somebody else want to do it? Like, what does that look like? Panic, fear. What is that like?
Someone else can do. I'm in the middle of something.
Thank you for offering your thought. Oh, there's Barry. Can we put Barry on the big screen here? I want to see this panic. Can you
Yes.
This is precious. Thank you so much. I mean, can you imagine, you're on this boat and there are raging waters and you think it's the end of the world, how we all felt during COVID, right? Ah. And so there are these moments for humankind. Thank you. Anybody else can come? Maybe Barry, do you any emotions from this story?
The one that comes up to my mind is the notion of, I guess, frustration, not quite the panic, but like that notion of I think I got it done, and then oh, here it is again. Not this again. Oh, like and confusion about it. Yeah.
I can think of in the Buddhist lore, there is a story of Avalokiteshvara, the Buddha of compassion. You're right, and he has gone into the hell realm to save beings, and he has saved 100,000 beings, and now he's brought them out, and they are doing well. And he turns around and he sees another 100,000 just descending into hell, falling into hell. And he just cries and cries until he splits into 1,000 pieces. And from that came the Avalokiteshvara that has 1,000 arms, one hand for each being. And so it can help 1,000 beings at the same time. And this is the question of the bodhisattva, right? It's like a madness. It doesn't matter how long it takes. There are innumerable beings, there are innumerable challenges, but I'll never give up. It's like it takes a madness, that kind of kindness, that kind of compassion. Thank you so much. Mm. So anybody would like to, or Barry or somebody else would like to do the frustration. What does that feel like, this frustration? Oh, I think I was finished. I was done.
God, what else do you want from me?
Exactly.
What else can I give? I've done everything.
Thank you so much. There's this down to our knees, right? And for the storyteller to explore these emotions and to bring them and share them is medicine for the storyteller and for the audience. It's like really a gift. Yeah. I mean, one that if I can share one for me that stands out is this since I was very little, I had this question of what is devotion? What is love that knows no end? What is that about? What does that look like? And to me, it was in that moment when they look into each other's eyes. Matsya and Manu are looking into it. Now imagine Matsya is as big as a mountain and his eyes are as large as houses. And he can look inside. One moment, please. One moment. One moment, my mother and my son were playing and making so much noise. They are enjoying 76-year-old lady and a 17-year-old boy teasing each other and playing with pillows. And um, so there was that big question since I was little, and in that moment when they look into each other's eyes, and Manu sees everything, all the planets, all the stars, and a tear of gratitude falling from one of Matsya's eyes because of Manu's kindness. Thank you. That to me is the big moment, this incredible bliss, sweetness, and freedom that comes from true gratitude and recognition of each other's true nature, each other's basic goodness. That is a moment for me that really, really stands out in this story. Um, yeah, I'm not sure. Would anybody like to show that? What does that look like for you? So that one is probably the big question, right, for human beings. And what does that look like? You know, we never had uh maybe we were lucky to have a grandparent who exemplified that, who was a role model of incredible love, equanimity, devotion to all around them. Um, those were the people who really spoke to me, and and of course, more than ever, in the beginning, we were talking about the situation of the world, right? The climate, the political. And then I share with you the story from my little son who said, I know why there are wars in the world, because human beings don't know how to calm their hearts. Now, storytelling is a tool and a medicine like no other to bring that to the heart in oneself and in others. And I really say this is I I feel it. Each time I tell a story, each time I hear a story from others, there is that chance to live in this moment, in this awareness, basic presence. Such a gift. So I just want to thank you all for, I mean, you could have been at the beach right now, you could have been watching a movie, shopping, doing anything, but you chose to come here and to tell stories and to listen to stories. And this alone, I believe the earth feels it, feels this joy, feels this love. At least the people around you will feel it, if not the earth. And it does make a huge difference. And so thank you from my heart to Eric and to all of you for such a heartwarming, open session. And I would love to do this again, Eric, so anytime.
Hey, well, thank you. You really blended the telling of these meaningful stories with practical storytelling techniques. So you did exactly what you said you were going to do, and you did it beautifully. Thank you very much.
Thanks to you. Thanks to you.
Wonderful.
Thank
Okay,
you so
so
much,
now
Marleny.
we'll stop the recording now.